thanks for this introduction. It's a pleasure to be here, although it's also a little bit like a yeah, I saw some nightmares last night because of this event, and it was because my slides were said to be something not fitting well with the event or something. So I hope they are not like that. There was not enough text in my slides. They should actually be somehow visible now. But yeah, I'm not sure if I want to show them. But there's not much text there. And my nightmare is maybe based on the fact that I haven't been giving much like presentations for professional art audiences. I'm quite often talking all around, but for other kind of audiences. So yeah, I hope that I have something to give to you as well, even though I'm not very sure who you are. There's some friends among the crowd, but if this is too simple, then just say it and let's get deeper if it's possible. But yeah, it would be great to have it as a kind of full screen mode. Yeah, my background. I'm an artist. I graduated from Academy of Fine Arts like 8 years, maybe more even. Well, but I graduated from there some years ago, and I was studying in the Department of Time and Space, which is quite close to environment or environmental art practices and urban art and something like that. For some reason, that background made me quite critical towards the environmental art and also so-called urban art and the phenomena of getting rid of the white boxes and changing, or how to say, like urban art practices on the streets is not very easy phenomena actually. I have been mostly working in gallery environment. My artworks have been shown there, and I don't know why that's like fitting to my or why I think that it's the best space for my practice. Maybe I try to go that to that in my presentation. And my English is sometimes fluent and sometimes not, and it's fairly early morning, and I try to drink a little bit like overdose of coffee to get my motor like on. But let's see how it will go. And because Eva is your English is perfect, so you can maybe help me when I'm in trouble. Yeah, and I have some notes here actually, so I should follow them. But the title of the kind of keynote is there, and I'm not sure if someone finds if it's somehow provocative. That wasn't my aim. I'm actually here a little bit like just grasping my doctoral, the postgraduate work which I'm doing, which Eva referred. So I'm actually trying to find the or investigate what kind of attempts there have been in among the arts and visual arts and avant-garde movements to get rid of environment or do something which is not environmental. And yeah, there is that kind of like, I have found some nice examples, and especially suprematism, which was maybe one of the key kind of movements among the modernist movement in the like 100 years ago. They had fairly clear, like Malevich, who was the key artist in that movement. There was others as well, but maybe he's best known. He was writing fairly clear words about like how he would like to replace the organic nature on Earth by suprematist nature made by modernist designers. And also the role of technology in his mind was like almost like religious. There was a background for that movement which I'm really interested in, which I can't say it's very like scientific yet, what I'm the knowledge what I'm collecting, but I hope I can use it in my thesis as well. But there was a connection to a cosmist movement in Russia, which was like Orthodox Christian philosophical school, where they thought that it's necessary to fight against the death of humans, which is actually really much present in Orthodox Christian liturgy and texts, and also in Bible. Of course, in every Christian movement there is this idea that the resurrection of Christ and death is key element in this religious thought. So actually they thought in Russia that technology is something which is making this possible. And this is the background why they were interested in space, concurrent space, because they thought that when technology is able to wake us or all the past generations from death, we need more space, we need more planets where they can live. This is one part of it. Of course, there was many kinds of thoughts, and so this makes me think that like technology as a narrative is not based possibly in that rational way of thinking as it's marketized today, or when we have like engineer-led country like Finland is today and has been like a couple of decades, I would say. There's kind of like a like always this kind of like a explanation for what is going on and for the decisions, that it's economically unavoidable and it's technologically unavoidable, so we have to just like in a way like adapt ourselves into the development of technology which is happening elsewhere. Even though we have like nice companies in Finland like Nokia, the real inventions are coming from abroad, and then we have lots of all kinds of like governmental institutions trying to foresee how the technology will develop, so that we are ready to adapt our country and ourselves into this stream of developing technology. And I find it really interesting that actually the technology is very often in other cultural phenomena than Russian cosmism or suprematism, it's having this same kind of mood, that it's actually aesthetic or even religious or spiritual kind of project or process. And that makes me really excited about like how actually this non-rational or kind of practical side of technology and logics of Western civilizations is formed, and what is art's role in forming this kind of like alternative hidden narrative which we are actually following quite much. I mean that when we have a strong conversation in Finland right now about mining activities in the countryside, or how to treat forests and how to use biomass, it's really easy to see that actually there is not much rational points of views in public. They are in a way like hidden, or they are attempted to be somehow rational points, like we need some economical growth, or we need employment, or things like that. But actually the mines are producing metal for cars, which is like car is not rational object. It's based on totally other kind of like ways of or other parts of our kind of culture than this rationally led kind of like what it is like the oman edun tavoittelu, like yeah. Well, it's happy to see that it was difficult for you as well. It's really simple. It's the key element in every society, so it's something what we should all here know that we are looking for own economical privilege, and that's the running kind of logic for the society. But actually it's not much there. When you are buying a car, you are making very bad investment, not only for yourself but for the future of the humankind and for your own children and so on. So there's lots of like this kind of hidden non-rational streams which I try to little bit like make more visible in my art and in my research, and also yeah, by bringing these phenomena. One, like I think that there's certain key phenomena in history of last 100 years or later as well, but I'm concentrating especially in those things which happened in St. Petersburg like 100 years ago. I should change slides. These have possibly I'm not sure if they really like are synchronized with my talk, but this is of course the key work of Kazimir Malevich, the black square on white surface, and I choose this kind of environmental way of showing it. There's also human beings and the gallery space or museum space. So this is to say that they are environmental pieces. The suprematism was highly environmental art phenomena. It was about, they were like trying to find the best possible way to describe what they found essential in their environment and in the development of their environment at that time in St. Petersburg and in all societies getting into the modern production wave, and especially the energy, changing the society's function logics from bioeconomy, which was thought to be somehow royal logic and agricultural logic, to modern industrialized society, which was also, in a way, they thought that it's led by proletarians, and proletarians are able to somehow like win, or there was this Victory of the Sun opera, which is like in a way thought to be something which is like that they are fighting against sun, which is following Tsar logics, and replacing the sun with black square, which is proletarian energy source. And there's lots of like possibilities to think that actually the black square is somehow like related to fossil fuels and the huge like change in the Russian society when the fossil fuels and coal and oil started to run the society instead of agricultural products and wood and so on. Okay, another thing, this is like also from Russia, trying to close the relations to the environment. This is kind of like acoustic chamber where person can be in sensory deprivation and only focus in certain things. So this is like a, I hope I can like explain this like thought somehow understandable way. But I think that in modernism and in abstraction, one of the key things is just the frustration to the noise, in that sense that they worship at these really simple forms like black square, because they thought that there's something holy or sacral in reducing the background noise. And this attempt has been like going on for a very long time, and in all kinds of like research and scientific like it's also war thing. Like our processor is possibly not efficient enough to handle the natural environment, producing all kinds of like voices and noises and so on. And then I have felt that really, like personally, when I have been thinking my own art and how I would like to show it, I would like to put it in the gallery, because I think that there's too much noise for my like sometimes quite small and sometimes quite conceptual thoughts that I can't put them on the streets or in the streets because there's so much going on that they will be hidden there. And I think that almost everything is hidden in the cityscape and in normal life. I mean that we are so busy and so on that we have to really like create a kind of new space or new kind of like or reduce all the unnecessary elements and have this white cube, because we can't like communicate without like excluding all that noise from the society. And then people are able to see those small things, like really sensitive and small scale things in the artwork. And yeah, I understand this attempt because it feels natural for me as well. That like it's really frustrating how loud voices, for example, marketing or even politics is always using. Like they really make other voices disappear, like arts and culture. Well, yeah, this is just continuum of that, and this is also continuum of that. I would say that same phenomena, that even the kind of like land art and environmental art has same kinds of like there is this kind of like willingness to simplify the natural, like communicate the natural cycles and natural processes to the wider human audience by simplifying the forms of nature or something. This is not always the case, but I would say that it's really difficult to really make an artwork which is as complex as the nature, or the complexity is always reduced when you take material from the forest into the art occasion or something. And yeah, this is my main criticism actually, that unfortunately this space is looking like that. We have become to be a Malevich, or there's an attempt to build up that kind of like landscapes, and it's really like dominating our development, that we are creating this kind of like forms which are directly from the drawings of Malevich, and it's just like using the same shapes like the modern abstract painting kind of shapes to create a world for humans. And we truly are replacing the organic nature with these kind of blocks. It's 70% of the land surface of Earth is already altered by humans to be more like that than the original organic system was. Well, yeah, this is wildly going to this. Eva is of course like really the specialist in social ecological system analysis and frameworks, but this is like maybe a little bit in the wrong place, but I try to keep this solid in that sense that like Malevich possibly didn't find himself in this kind of like entity, or he was really believing that technology is something which can make like ecosystem not needed anymore, or we can replace the ecosystem by technology, and we only would have this human system. And this is like later this is the kind of like scientific framework which I'm using in my thesis quite much. Like I'm actually investigating how to include culture here, and how to be more precise, and when we are trying to find out how human system is affecting to the ecosystem, and how ecosystem is giving, or how the feedback loops between these two are working, then we need much more like information and understanding of culture into this human sphere. It's mainly dominated by like natural scientists and social scientists. The knowledge which is in this like social ecological system approach is mostly coming from elsewhere than cultural research, or there is hardly any understanding how art is actually how it's affecting into the humanity. And my in a way, like a starting point to my research is the notion that actually art and culture, I would say that art is something which is actively changing the culture. Artists are professional in criticizing and developing what we call culture or something, or what we call arts. So artists are trained to change the values and things essential for calling something art. So they are not always included into the art field. They might be outside of that because they are bringing something totally new into this understanding of arts. And that was the case with suprematists as well. Their works were not thought to be art at all. They were really interested in science, in Darwin and whatever, relativity theories and psychoanalysis. All those big things developed in the early 20th century all around Europe. They were really networking with everyone else in the Europe and in France and so on. Or just to mention that there was a connection to Paris, but there was of course lots of things elsewhere. And then we need to be more precise when we are analyzing this human nature kind of feedback loops, that there's lots of these kind of things happening which are not rational. Like the understanding, the scientific understanding of human is right now fairly much dominated by the idea that we are somehow rational and maximizing our own benefit in our decision making, and including more arts understanding of humanity here. We can I would say that it's really necessary when it's pointing out that there's other drivers in human activity than rationality. But it doesn't mean that it's not logical. Like I would say that art is having its own logic. This is also a little bit someone doesn't like me saying this because they think that art should be understood as something similar, or it shouldn't be reduced from or in a way economical. It's part of economical activity or something. But I would say that art and culture it's more fruitful to think that it has somehow its own way of thinking and own tradition. This is more fruitful for research as well. That we have maybe religious way of thinking, we have politics, we have economy, we have technology, we have arts, and they all are interconnected, of course. But they might have also their own voices and own ways of understanding what is humanity. Yeah, I should go further. This is endless thing. But yeah, I mean that what I'm searching there is if this would be suprematist avant-garde school in St. Petersburg, I'm investigating what kind of knowledge they had and why they wanted to change the environment and how they actually were able to change it so much that half of the planet is looking like a suprematist piece of art when you look it from the satellite images, which is really amazing thing. I would say they were really successful in this. Of course, they were just they were squares and all those shapes, abstract shapes, and mathematics was developed before them. But in a way, after their action, it became to be a planetary phenomena, and it was just adopted by both communist and capitalist systems all around, or they visually and how it really looks from space. There's a kind of a clear reference to suprematism, how our societies are altering the land areas especially. And then I'm a little bit thinking, or as much as this, I'm thinking how the ecosystem is changing our understanding. The changing ecosystem is changing our understanding of art and culture. And this is interesting when we go to environmental art, that because ecosystem is changing so much because of our human action, how is the art then changing when the art which is referring to nature, how that is changing? And yeah, it's just a question. And there has always been alternatives. This is Elena Guro she lived at the same time with Malevich, and she was belonging into this kind of organic school organic school in St. Petersburg. Malevich was part of that school also, but then was unhappy because it wasn't like avant-garde enough or something, and then these organic school artists were continuing their action, but it never became the mainstream. The mainstream was like suprematist, and unfortunately that's the case with almost every environmental movement, that there has been like environmental movements and ways of thinking like many hundreds years, but they never become mainstream. And this is something to think for environmental artists as well, that are we happy that it's a kind of like into the situation that we still need to call it something like environmental art or eco art, and then there's something else as well, like how we can think that there is an art practice which is not environmental or ecologically minded. This is logics what we have to just make sure that everyone is adopting in the humankind. They can't be not a single person who is not knowing these very like simple basic facts about how we can keep our societies running and how much we are dependent on natural systems. And if there is an art practice which is like trying to escape from these facts, it's not in a way like a brave avant-garde, it's just madness. Well, there's lots of like everything here. I will, well, yeah, lots of things. This is maybe something where we can end. This is just like I'm just amazed. This is a motherboard of some computer from laptop. This is the satellite image of this area. We are located here, and then this is the bog or swamp Meierland close to Mustarenda house, where I'm possibly someone of you know. We have an artist residency project in Kainuu in Hyrynsalmi. And how different these are looking, and like these two are different than this one, but these two, micro level and macro level, we are like repeating exactly similar kind of shapes, not consciously, or we are not very conscious about that, I would say. But what we should think about that, and is that all practical, or is there some kind of like aesthetic value, which is like or cultural reason or whatever kind of reason why we are doing this? And then, yeah, how to get into this organic mood is maybe a question for how to change this to be more like this, not just like hiding some kind of like a bunch of branches on somewhere what you can't see from the satellite image, but like we have to really change this everything here to be more like this, to make it sustainable. I had one nice video, maybe I can show it if like we go to that topic in the conversation. It's really nice. It's David Meadows or Dennis Meadows from Limits to Growth 40 years anniversary, showing that we have to be really also like doing something, not only talking. Yeah. Thanks.